we can change the narrative about Nigeria. When people talk about Nigeria, they talk negatively about it most of the times. So it's the role of the filmmakers to now bring that positive side of Nigeria for the world to understand that Nigerians are more than the negative information they used to get. And we can do that digitally because in those days, you have to communicate or go for lectures for people to understand where you're coming from. But now you have these platforms. Everything you have can go on these platforms. People will see globally. Look at Nigeria on Netflix. It's doing really very well. When Nigerian films premiere on Netflix, you find out that they're in the top 5 or top 10 in most of the European countries, Asian countries, and all other parts of the world. So this is one of the ways through which we can be able to export that, or do that cultural exchange.
How much of being a Nigerian cultural ambassador are you? And we're all guilty of this. Most of us Nigerian filmmakers are guilty. So here we see a good number of us telling stories that are still Western culture dominated. From the naming of your characters, from the writing of your story, the characters are named English names. What happens to Yoruba names? What happens to Hausa names? What happens to Igbo names? What happens to Tiv names? What happens to our cultural epic names? Oh, they say, but they will not be able to pronounce it. Oh, leave that to them. Do we pronounce their own names? We have to be intentional about how we represent our culture, knowing now that the world is a global space and you don't need people's permission. Everything you do, directly or indirectly, intentionally or unintentionally, you're putting the Nigerian story out there. I think we should begin to make conscious attempts at creating our own streaming platforms. So we thank God for giant streaming platforms like Prime Video. We thank God for giant streaming platforms like Netflix and the rest of them. But what happens if today or if tomorrow we come up with our own Nigerian Netflix?